援護のカードが出た。
ラリホー。
Hello everyone, Skippy here, and welcome to One Piece episode 900, a monumental episode of the anime brought to us by two titans of it, Kenji Yokoyama and Aya Komaki, according to the magazines that reveal the next month's staff list. We've talked a bit about Komaki before in the episode 894 breakdown that you can go and look at to get all the details, but in short, she became co-series director starting with the Wano arc, and is a director known for delivering on big, impactful episodes. The staff member that I really want to focus on here is none other than Kenji Yokoyama. Yokoyama's been a supervisor and key animator on the anime since episode 3, and has been one of its biggest assets for 20 years now, solo key animating his own episodes on the anime for almost a decade before other animators joined him, as well as storyboarding and doing key animation on multiple other episodes. At nearly 70 years old, his speed and dedication to the One Piece anime is something to behold, with his angular yet nostalgic looking character art defining his work on the anime for the past 2 decades, never once letting go of that early East Blue charm. As a staff member, he's extremely respected by his fellow peers, and while his art may not have the most amount of polish due to his sheer speed, he stands as one of the best and most influential animation supervisors on the anime, having many important episodes under his belt. All this makes you understand just why he was given the reins of the 900th episode of the anime, and why the episode itself should be of high quality despite the manga content that it covers. However, it turns out that the magazines were wrong, and Yokoyama is actually not working with Komaki on this episode. While Komaki is providing the storyboard for this episode, it's actually a former assistant director on the anime, Shimaya Tasuku, who is directing this episode, likely due to Komaki's role as co-series director. So it looks like episode 900 is suddenly a lot more meaningful than it was before, now that it contains a debut for a brand new episode director. So with two strong staff members supporting an up-and-coming young one, will the 900th episode be as polished as it should be, or will it be a decent episode that at the very least stays in line with the Wano standard of quality? Well, let's take a look and find out. Adaptation-wise, this episode is one that follows its original source material the closest out of any episode in this arc so far. This episode covered the first 12 pages of chapter 914, and while there are some small extensions to Batman's appearance, the fight that Zoro has with the arrows, and some added filler with Tama getting healed and Luffy assisting Zoro in fighting Batman's arrows, the episode is basically a one-for-one adaptation of the chapter. In terms of my own thoughts on them though, I'm kind of half and half with them, as I do appreciate the added Tama healing scene and added Batman scenes, as it does really make both feel less sudden, but the extended spar with Batman's arrows feel really drawn out personally, and it was so obviously only there to pad for time. It's definitely not the worst thing in the world, especially when compared to how the past few weeks padded out their respective canon events, but it's a bit of a stain on what is otherwise a pretty solid episode on the adaptation front. Now, while Komaki definitely doesn't go totally all out with her board here, it's still an absolutely strong showing from her. Despite the episode itself being pretty light on big scenes that would require most of her skills, Komaki still manages to pepper the episode with a lot of really cool angles, backgrounds, and compositions that you wouldn't really see a lesser director on the show pull off. It adds life to this mostly story-based episode, and makes every moment feel tons more vibrant, with the shots of Batman listening to Suru being some of my favorite shots in the episode, due to the sheer creativity of them. Couple all that together with cool use of compositing, and you get a storyboard that isn't something a lot of people will consider the best in the series, but it's an absolutely solid entry from Komaki that makes this section of the story feel a lot more eye-catching than it did originally. terms of animation highlights, there's not a lot to really rave about here, and that is absolutely fine given the content of the episode. It wasn't really intended to have Sakuga that would knock your socks off, so it gets off scot-free in that regard. However, that doesn't mean that there isn't some bits of nice animation here and there though, as I quite like the scene of Luffy and Zoro lying about their names to Suru because it had some really subtle and bouncy character acting that was made even better because of their abundance of expressions. It doesn't really resemble Yokoyama's work a whole lot, so I presume it to be Akiko's Sugizono, the second highest credited key animator on this episode. If this is indeed her work, then I really hope that she brings more character acting like this to the series. There's also a pretty decent bit of action animation from Yoichi Mitsui when the spar against Batman starts, but it's mostly focused on striking art more than anything, with Mitsui's unique shading being on full display. As you'd expect, it's really the corrections from Yokoyama that are the driving force of this episode, with our characters suddenly transported back to the East Blue days with Yokoyama's more nostalgic looking style. It also goes to show how respected Yokoyama is as a staff member too, when you notice that most of his art is actually left untouched here, with Ichikawa and Matsuda only cleaning up shots here and there throughout the entirety of the episode. Matsuda in particular is actually kind of light in terms of her corrections here, and I think that's why she isn't listed as a chief animation supervisor in the opening credits this week like she was in 899. All in all, this episode animation-wise really has the skeleton of a rather meh episode, but it's the talented staff on board, both old and new, that managed to deliver some cool little bits of animation and art here and there to really make it an episode that's above what lesser staff would deliver, perfectly segueing into my final thoughts here. While the content for the 900th episode certainly wasn't as exciting as one may expect from such a milestone of an episode, the talented old and new staff managed to bring the episode's quality up a few notches thanks to their array of skills. It's not the absolute best that they can do for sure, but they took the skeleton of a potentially dull episode and made it into an enjoyable one that you won't end up feeling nothing for, with next week's episode looking like it's doing the same, with Satoshi Ito and Masahiro Kitazaki looking as if they're adding some needed flair to the content that they're adapting. Storyboard-wise, it's looking super tasty, and I think I spotted some Hisata key animation here and there as well, so hopefully next episode will manage to do what this episode did and then some. Anyways guys, that's it for now. I'm Skippy, and yes, the character's name is actually Batman.